I've always been fascinated by the concept of the acceptance world. What is the acceptance world? Well, for me, that is the world that people live in and just accept what is going on around them. They don't particularly want to fully understand what the dynamics and the impact of the world. They like to accept. So what is it like to be in an acceptance world? Well, for instance, people say, well, this is the democratic process that we have in this country, and they accept it. This is the type of law that we have in this country, and they accept it. They say this is the political structure that we have in this country and accept it. And in fact, they accept nearly everything that is been established in our society. And the idea that it can be changed or that they can influence change doesn't really occur to them. It's not seen as a priority. And we should look at what this means about how societies, if we live in a world where everybody lives in an acceptance, where everyone accepts what is, the status quo, then there will be no change. So detrimental harm can come to people. So if we say, well, okay, there's 8 million people living in poverty, well, there's nothing we can do about that. We can't affect that change. If we have a society where people cream off from the top and we create more and more millionaires, billionaires, and we say that's acceptable, we can't change that. And they just accept that. And it starts really on a very low level. It's like when you go into a shop and you receive bad service. Instead of challenging that service and say this is not appropriate or acceptable, you know, I want good service. I've come in here. You are there as to serve me or to wait on me. Then I expect good service from you. But if we just say, oh, I'll put up with bad service, bad behaviour, then it will continue. There will be no change. If we put up with bad policing, for instance, and we see that we don't see police officers, we're not communicating, and they spending hours writing reports and not being involved in the community, and it can be quite detrimental, then we need to be able to say that. We just don't accept that that can't be changed. And when we see bad behaviour in the street, we see someone behaving inappropriately, someone dropping litter, someone who's is not scooping up the poo their animals make on the street. That's unacceptable. And we as individuals should have the courage to go to someone and say, no. You know, you can't leave shit there, or you can't drop litter on the street. You know, we all live here, we all share, and to confront the person. But most people really lack confidence in being able to approach people and say to people, look, your behaviour is antisocial and you shouldn't be doing it. And people say to me, oh, well, you can't have confrontation. Oh, you know, something could happen to me. You know, I might be knifed or I might be attacked. And yeah, that does happen. But if we all did it, and I do it all the time, I mean, I have no problem confronting anybody, and I feel very confident within myself, and I have. I mean, I have twice from very disturbed people taken axes from them because I realise that the danger that they could inflict upon others and their behaviour needs to be checked. And each time I've confronted people and we've worked through the behaviour, and we all need to take on that responsibility. The acceptance world is one where you do not take responsibility, where society as a whole doesn't take responsibility, that we rather walk away from things rather than face up to them. And that goes, if we start, and I'm a great believer, in small beginnings in our own community, that we want to change the way that is. And whether it's litter on the street, or dog poo, or outraged parties and people shouting and yelling, or muggings, or whatever it is, we need to say that is unacceptable. And we need to get together as a society and confront this and see the best way that we can protect our own community in conjunction working with the other forces, certainly the police. And one of the things I would like to see much more is the interaction between the general public and the police, and the general public being able to say, look, this is the way that we want policing, and working it together, how we want the police force to work within our area, how we want the council to work within our area, that we have the right to say how we want things to happen, and what happens to recycling, for instance, to get everyone on board. We just don't accept that recycling is going on. We need to know exactly what is happening with recycling, what happens to our waste when it leaves our house, because that's part of our responsibility. And it's no good to say, oh yes, the council will recycle it. We need to know what they're doing, and they need to be made accountable for what's happening. So it's in every aspect of our life that we should be challenging and looking as an individual and as a society, and not just accepting that this is the world, this is the way it is. The way that we would like our streets, if we would like trees growing in our streets, we would like to, for instance, if we could say that we don't want cars in our streets for one day, then what means? And different streets have a free area for children to play once a week. I mean, we could do this as a society. We don't have to accept that we have to have the amount of traffic within our cities or in our streets. We can make decisions about that. We can decide that maybe some streets could be blocked off and be where children can be protected and safe to play outside. We also need to say that we are all responsible for protecting each other. And if we see antisocial behaviour going on in the street, then we should take part. I mean, I've stopped men from hitting their girlfriends. I have no problem with that. Of going up and saying, look, you can't do this. This is unacceptable. Sometimes I've been turned on by the women themselves and told I shouldn't interfere. Now that's happened. And they've accepted that the boyfriend or husband has a right to hit them. So, but that hasn't stopped me from going up and saying, well, I don't think this is right, and I don't think you should accept yourself being hit like that. And so, if we need to change our society away from an accepting society into a more proactive society where we all take responsibility, then we need to do that. And if we begin to think like that and change our mindset, you would see how rapidly society would change. It's only because we lock ourselves away and say it's not our responsibility, and just accepting what we see around us, we're thinking that we're powerless to affect change, gives us what we have, the society that we have. And I do believe if we want to change the bigger picture of society, we start locally. I'm a great believer in you as an individual being part of the community and challenging things which are inappropriate or antisocial and impact negativity within the community. And that's all our responsibility, not just a few. And we should then work towards consensus where we all agree on something. So if we want to permission for someone wants planning permission or want to open up a restaurant or whatever, we should all be part of that decision making, because it's all part of our responsibility. It's not just left to the council and planners to make decisions. We need to make our own decisions in the communities that we live in, because we live in them, and we have to, whatever is imposed upon us by the council, we have to live with that. So, and so we have absolute responsibility to challenge any decision that impacts negatively on our society.